Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's exciting because I'm releasing something a little different than my normal woodworking content. About 2 months ago, I released my video of my very first guitar build. I've got a black Limba body, Claro Tiger Flame walnut top. There's a bisected layer here that is bird's eye maple. Now in my build video, I glossed over the finishing process. Throughout the process, I was leaning fairly heavily on a really good friend of mine, Ty Tyler with Shock the Fox. He shared with me some of his favorite tips and tricks on how he likes to finish guitar. We started kind of spitballing some ideas with Stuart McDonald, or StewMac if you will, about crashing their studio for a day or two and shooting the video there. So that's what this video is. Stay tuned, watch the video, and then stick around to the end and I'll go through some more details on this guitar that I built.
There's a saying in guitar building that 90% of the work is building the guitar and finishing is the other 90%. If you love a natural looking guitar finish, then this video is totally for you. So I'm gonna walk you through an entire process of taking a guitar from raw wood like this to a beautiful, buttery, natural wood grain looking finish without any big fancy workshop or expensive tools. Let's f***ing do it. And without the and let's do it. Hi everybody, I'm Ty, also known as Shock the Fox on Instagram and YouTube. I make custom handmade guitars. Today, we're gonna be finishing a guitar and my good friend Casey is with me.
Hi, I'm Casey with C. Reeves Makes on social media, Instagram and YouTube, where I've established myself as a woodworker and furniture builder. And I've seen and played your guitars. I actually have a couple of them at my house right now that I get to demo for him.
I didn't even know he had those.
We can cut that. No, but I met this nutty guy because I've always had a passion to get into building guitars. In fact, right now I'm in the process of building my very first guitar from scratch. So I think that it's going to be a lot of fun finishing this guitar today and awesome. having Ty walk us through every part of the process. I feel like there's a mystical property of putting a finish on a guitar versus like putting a finish on a table. I've done a lot of woodworking and applied a lot of finishes in the projects that I've done currently. So I've sprayed lacquers, I've wiped on waxes and polys. I'm curious with finishing my guitar project, what is different in that realm? There's a lot of little facets literally in a guitar, from everything like the back of the neck pocket to the pickup cavities to everything that's on the guitar that isn't on a regular woodworking project.
So you're trying to demystify all this stuff?
Correct, correct.
My hope in doing this video is not just that you can learn it, but anyone that watches this can actually understand how to do it very easily. All right, everyone, let's get into it. This is my DC model. It's just a double cut model. The top's kind of cool and different. I have a lot of these crazy scraps of quilted maple that aren't big enough for an entire body or big enough for an entire neck blank. I tried an experiment, a prototype of using like an epoxy resin on half of it to give it that kind of a cool, different look.
Two-tone.
This is actually a Richlite fretboard. It's the only time I've ever used Richlite, so it's not even like an ebony or anything, which is different. It'll be cool to see what that looks like even with oil finish. This is a one-piece black Limba back, a crazy cool torrefied flame maple neck. It's ready for finish. Typical spray finishes, you could actually start that process right now, but we're gonna take this thing to a natural oil finish. And there's a few reasons why I love a natural oil finish. It looks more organic. It looks and feels like wood, and it's not like it's dipped in glass or dipped in plastic or whatever the case may be. Even if I just take this and we haven't put any finish on it, you can automatically see how that wood, it starts to look three-dimensional even. Like you start to see this wood come alive. Second reason is the neck. A typical spray-on finish, it can feel sticky. The playability improves so much with just a smooth, great feeling neck. Reason number 3, oil finishes are really user-friendly and beginner-friendly. Anyone can do it. My kids who are 13 and 15 help me out doing these finishes, so I'm really comfortable. So for me, an oil finish it's very beginner-friendly, and you can get a professional quality guitar with the process that I follow.
Awesome. I also want to point out that you may not be starting with a custom-built guitar such as this one. You may be coming from a bunch of different places. An example of mine is my son and I recently bought a guitar that needed some work. So we stripped it down, he sanded it back, and we refinished that ourselves. So it's not just this intimidating, like custom-built, beautiful guitar like we have here. This process that we're going to show you here today is applicable to what you're working on.
Yeah, anyone could do it. All right, so it's in the white right now, which means it's sanded to 220. And if you get to this point, this is a good starting point,
Gotcha.
No matter where you're at.
Okay.
So this is the point where if you have little fixes, little scratches, little things, you have to get them chased out now. And to do that, there's nothing better than like a low angled light. So there was times where I would take my phone and I'd hold my phone camera really low to the surface so I could look across the surface of the guitar to see, all right, is that identifying anything? Just recently, I started using one of these lights from SurfPrep sanding where, as you can see, when you hold this thing across, I mean, heck, even right there, I don't know if you can pick that up. Notice those couple little scratches there? You can identify so many more cool things with a great light that's coming across the surface,
right,
as opposed to just an overhead light. I mean, heck, can you see that? See those little, what are they called, pigtails?
Yes, yep.
I would have never guessed that those are even there. These couple of marks, I was resting this guitar on my bench, and more than likely there was like a piece of metal or another piece of wood, but you can see where obviously I was leaning on the top and I got these two little indentations. So these are the natural bug holes that give the wood its crazy cool character, and I don't try to hide them. I like the organic, natural feel of wood. I don't cover them up, I don't fill them in. I leave them be exactly what they are. Okay, so we've found some areas with the light that definitely we can fix. Let's start with the one that you can do a process that's pretty simple. I would even say that it's magical. It's just using a simple iron and we can steam it out. Let me grab the iron.
Okay.
All right, so we've identified these dents. We have the iron that I stole from my wife. We have water, as you can see, because it says it right there, water. So let's just soak the area and try to work it into the grains. And what I like to do is I just take a shop towel, or you could just use like a regular towel, like a beach towel or something, and just
saturate it.
Saturate the hell out of it. Can I say that?
So you're not putting the iron directly onto the surface.
Yeah.
You're using it.
I mean, even if we did burn it a little bit, it's not going to ruin the finish. I guess maybe that's probably wrong to say, but that's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Because my whole goal right now is let's just get the dents out because we know that the surface isn't flat.
Okay.
So. Now let's see how far it came up, if at all. They're gone.
They're gone.
So now that we've got that taken care of, let's get these little pigtails we have just by taking some 220 grit, which we're already sanded to, and just a simple block of wood. And let's see if we can get rid of them simply. Now, if we have to go back and chase those scratches with a lower grit, we can.
Okay.
But this at least will tell us where we're at and how much further we have to go before they're completely gone.
Gotcha.
Can you see them anymore?
I cannot see them. The pigtails are gone.
Yeah. Awesome. So at this point, we've sanded to 220. We got rid of the little pigtails, we got rid of the dents, all the superficial scratches. Now we got to take it those extra steps and work our way through all the grits. And I know that not everybody has a crazy, cool SurfPrep sander like this. There's a lot of ways you can do this. For years, I would have a round circular thing like this and I'd be doing it by hand. The goal is get it to that really shiny surface. That's when we can take it to the next step.
Gotcha.
So let's work our way through the grits. We'll start on the flat surface, then we'll move to the other areas, the curvy areas, the back of the neck, whatever the case may be.
Okay, so one quick question.
Yeah.
So when you're sanding, so say we're gonna start here, how do you know it's time to switch to the next level?
So I've seen a couple of different ways people do it. I've seen where they'll take a pencil line and they'll draw over the entire thing because it's a way to identify, hey, I've been over that area and I know now that that has been completely sanded. I don't do the pencil line. Some of the woods I work with are are softer and I don't want to leave a line on it, I pretty much go by look and feel at this point.
And probably the more you do, the more you develop that like muscle memory feel of I've been in this area for X amount of time and I'm moving along in a pattern.
This guitar is going to be tough. Like we're going to have to really examine this as we are working our way through the grits to make sure we don't leave anything behind. Because on a flat surface like this, that's as smooth as it is, it's going to show up and it's going to be obvious.
Well, and essentially, so we're sanding this portion and polishing this portion.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we have to
Absolutely.
approach it as.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes at that point.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to start out here with the SurfPrep Fine. I believe the Fine pad is like a 320 comparable grit. So we'll start there and then we'll work up through the grits and see where it goes. One thing that I'm doing is I'm kind of looking for uniformity, so like you could see there's a little bit of an impression. You don't want to 100% like go after every single thing that you find. You just want to try to stay as uniform and consistent as you can, because as you're going, you're eventually going to kind of catch those all up to each other. One thing I wanted to point out too, like when do you know like you're finished with a grit?
Yeah.
With experience, you can almost feel the grit transition. You can feel
like the way the sander's moving
it's
across
like
the
it's
surface?
digging into the 220, so it feels like you're pushing, but after you've gone past it, it goes easier into that zone.
Oh, interesting.
With the control cavity covers, I should do that separate, because if this sits in here a little bit proud of the back surfaces, you can be missing this whole section right here. So I would sand that as a separate item. Okay, now that we're all done with that grit on all the flat surfaces, I'm going to move up to the very fine. This is about a 400 to 600 range grit. You're not pressing the sander down into the wood like if you're grinding it or really trying to take away material. You're really just burnishing that surface.
Are you done?
With that grit. So I think I'm ready to wipe this
Yeah,
on and see
do
what
it,
looks
man.
like.
I think this will be cool. I hope there's enough naphtha on there. Okay. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, look at that. This is kind of like a teaser of what...
These colors are going to do nuts. Like, yeah.
Wow, look at that.
That's the area I was worried about, that little, what we thought was like a divot or something. You were able to work that right out.
Yeah, to like your point too, like you're not going to want to attack that aggressively. You're just going to want to...
No, you want to attack it aggressively, but you shouldn't.
Exactly.
From here, we go on to doing some of the radius around the outside and some of those curves and compound curves. So we'll probably switch over to the SurfPrep 3x4, and I'll show you how I do this. Now, what's cool about this is these are really squishy. It's going to be able to conform to not just the curve of the body this way, but we'll be able to get it to do some of these edges. And then there's going to be areas where this sucker doesn't fit. So I'll grab along the way and I'll show you how I use some of the different tools, that whether they be handmade tools or even just simple things you can use to get some of these radiuses in the back of the neck, etc. So we'll go from there.
Cool.
All right, let's get that thing switched over.
Okay.
Casey! Casey, thank you. Once again, this is probably like a 320 pad. Like I said before, some of these areas we're gonna have to get creative, like these tight, weird areas. I'll use these little spindles from my spindle sander, and I just take the same squishy pad because that's what we've been using. Well, I will stop there because I want to point out one thing. There's a scratch right here, and we can keep digging into this. My concern is this back strap, it's just a real thin, like a 0.6 millimeter thin layer of this flame maple. And there's another layer of like a red veneer underneath it, just as like a small detail on the edges. I'm concerned about chasing that too much because we could get into the red layer,
You could break through to the red.
and now we got to peel all of that off and actually get back into the construction phase.
Right.
So I just showed you how I did this one. Any questions or anything? No, you're good, right?
Nope. I'm gonna go around the outside, and I'm gonna use the round spindle pieces and whatever I feel.
All right, awesome.
Definitely a feel thing, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing normal feeling about like
Yeah,
contorting around a curve.
that's it. When I pick up a guitar or a guitar someone else has made, or even if it's like a production guitar, I always look at that neck joint, like how well it's sanded in here, because I know how hard it is to do those weird, tricky areas.
There's a lot that went into that spot.
Yeah.
Like that's a critical moment for this wood to be joined with that wood and everything to be balanced and feel right. Thank you.
That feels good.
Yep.
Now we move on.
Okay.
We need to find some compressed air.
Oh, right here.
I brought some of these, like, I guess you'd call them polishing papers. There's the 800, there's the 1000, there's the 1200, there's the 1500. We're gonna work our way through these, but we're gonna do this by hand. And I guess what's cooler is the higher up you go, it's almost like the quicker it's gonna go. So yeah, we'll work through the different grits and we'll start with 800. Next one. People will say, like, you should go with the grain, you should go against the grain. The grain's going in so many different stinking directions at this point. This has no grain. I don't know, like, I'll do circles, I'll do this way, I'll do that way. And if it feels right and looks right, then I'm pretty satisfied. As you said before, you're not really removing much material at this point. And once it's funny, like once you get to 800, I realized that if there were things you missed, you'll see them now.
Right.
You want to take the next couple? Sure.
So one thing I want to show here is it's loading up really, really fast. So Ty and I like kind of clapping it off on our pants. We're just cleaning it off. If you don't clean it out, you're smearing dust around. So every couple of passes, we'll clean it off. Okay, moving on to the last grit, 1500. It's amazing too with the resin and the wood that the transition is just non-existent. Be sitting at your desk and your boss sits over your shoulder while you're working. Okay, so we're done with 1500 up to this point. I'm gonna blow it off quick and then we're gonna take a look at the sheen on it and see what it looks like.
It feels great, but not until you actually get real low and look across the flatness of it do you start to see the effort that you put into it. If you can look at it straight on, it looks very matte, but when you look across it, it's got like a crazy cool sheen to it. But we're not done yet. Let's wipe the whole thing down with naphtha, and then if we have to sand it back, if any of the grain raised, we'll do that.
Okay.
Wipe it off again, make sure it's good and clean, then we'll move on to the final step.
Awesome.
Yeah, that looks great. That's Mother Nature right there, brother.
Yeah, why would you want to cover that up?
Right. That's awesome. Now we're going to get into pour filling, and there's different woods on here, but when I say pour filling, if we were to look across the wood and take a dissection of it, the wood has these pores in it. Different species of woods have different pores,
Pore
if you will.
characteristics.
Yeah, like for example, this black limba, the pores are deeper and they're more prominent. On this maple, it's tough to even see them.
Yeah, it's much tighter.
Yeah, it's a much tighter grain. What's cool about this is we're gonna really see the wood come alive when we get into the pour fill, and we'll notice really quickly that this will definitely take on more of the resin than anything else.
Is pour filling something that's required for every finishing job, or is it?
Is it necessary? No. But what I like to do is I use a resin, and I do the resin pour where basically I'm wiping the resin across all the grain, but I come back in and wipe it off, and what ends up happening is there's still little divots within there. And the reason is I want people to say, okay, that's really cool, and that's actually wood. It's not a fake piece of plastic. So it'll still have these little indentations.
So basically, we're going to flood it and then wipe it back as much as we can and let it cure.
That's it. Exactly right. Perfect. All right, so you can select from a lot of different options to pick an epoxy resin. I actually choose to use Total Boat, and there's multiple reasons. The first reason is I love the fact that it's clear. I love their 2-to-1 mixture. And lastly, it's the customer service side. Now, I've used a lot of different epoxy resins. The customer service with Total Boat, when I first started questioning these things, because I could reach out to a bunch of different companies, Total Boat got back to me in 5 minutes. That alone is enough for me to be committed to the brand.
So right here we have slow hardener, and they also have a fast hardener. Like, what's the difference, like in your reason for using this?
Yeah, so the slow hardener is a much more clear product, meaning like as it cures, being that it's curing slower, if there's bubbles in the area, they'll definitely come to the surface before it hardens. And it actually gives me a break, because after we do this guitar, we can actually do one of these and come back tomorrow and we're ready to go with the next step.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Makes perfect sense.
Awesome.
Probably the most important part with working with resin is gloves. We'll mix for 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
One of the reasons I like to use this epoxy is it's 1 cup and you're done. Other epoxies will have you pour A container into B container and then pour those containers back into another. Like, by the time you're done, you've got a pile of wasted garbage that you've got to now dispose of, where this is 1 small cup and a stir stick and you're ready to go.
All right, I feel pretty good about this.
Okay.
You comfortable?
I'm comfortable.
These are my kids' Columbus Zoo gold membership cards that are expired. I still have them. I don't know why.
And like you said, like, it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, because we're just going to come back anyway and rub it all in.
We're going to wipe most of it off with these shop towels here shortly. Now we're just going to coat the sides the same way I do the neck with our finger. You can almost feel as it's filling up the grains.
Wow.
Okay, let's grab one of these suckers. We can probably do this at the same time. And what I'd like to do is I fold it up, like I double it over, then double it over again. And you'll notice it'll start to get filled. Just switch over to a different spot. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now we're just gonna let it cure a little bit. So insert graphic here. Okay, Casey, go get the stuff, we'll mix it up, and then we're gonna flip it over and do the front.
Looks great.
Thanks, buddy. Let's go.
Okay.
Hey, Hey, it's the next morning. We've got a guitar that's epoxy's fully cured. There's some lines and some imperfections, if you will, left over from the epoxy. We're gonna go through the grits once again. We're gonna start at 600, work our way up to 1500, and get a really smooth surface before we go to our next step. So let's do it.
Awesome.
So we're gonna start with 600, and these are actually the same papers we used yesterday. There's nothing wrong with them. We were able to wipe them off as we went. Our goal is just to polish the surface area. The pores aren't going anywhere. We're just getting that resin that's sitting on the top. We're just gonna polish that off. Make sure you get the shiny surfaces, not shiny. Here's actually a pretty cool area that we could address.
Okay.
The resin from the top came through the tuner hole. You can see a glob of resin that came through right there. Now I could take this razor blade and drag it across there, but gotta remember, like, there's finished surface around that. So I just take a piece of tape so that now we know that that part's not gonna scrape the surface.
Right, yeah.
So I'm gonna find a cup of coffee.
So I'll continue through the grits. I'll do the 800, 1000, 12, and 1500, and
In that order, and we're good.
see you when you get back.
Yeah, all right, bud.
Okay. Here we go. Final grit, 1500.
Hey, buddy,
Hey,
I'm back.
that was a lot of sanding
was
or polishing.
A lot of coffee. Are you happy?
Yeah.
Your hand it slides across.
Right.
It's so smooth. It's smoother than like a piece of paper. Like a piece of paper feels rough.
So you remember when you'd wax your car and you'd take the towel and throw it on the hood and it'd roll off the hood?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
fly?
Like
It's like silky smooth.
Like literally, I'm thinking of, like, I wish I had a piece of paper to see what it felt like compared to this, because it's smoother than that. This isn't epoxy anymore on there. That's not epoxy resin.
It's polished wood, right?
That's polished wood. That's just raw wood that you're looking at. The resin's down in the little things that we can't see.
Right.
So, I mean, that really tells us that we did a good job, man. Awesome.
Nice.
You crushed it. This is the stage where you need to be in order to go to the next step. So get yourself down, look at it, make sure you get a good angle. And if you're not there, go back. We're there, and we're gonna keep going forward. All right, so we've completed all the foundational work. It's a lot of work to get to this point, like we talked about, but we're ready to move on to the next step, putting on an oil finish. This is Walrus Oil furniture butter. Now, what do I like about it? Or let me even start by saying, what do I not like about other things? A lot of the other finishes, you do not know what's in it. Safflower oil, tung oil, hemp seed oil, carnauba wax, pine rosin with a hint of lime. So it even smells really nice. And you know what? The reason that I love it is no walrus is harmed. All right, so we're gonna mix it up. People will question, all right, what does it cost? This jar, it's 35 bucks. However, out of all the guitars I've built, I've had one jar. So that 35 bucks will actually pay for itself over time.
You want to check that, make sure it's...
I trust you, man.
I got all the chunks out of it.
Chunky walrus oil. I don't think they want to hear us say that. All right, I do want to talk about these. This is what I choose to use when applying the finish. It is a white, non-woven pad. I reached out to SurfPrep this morning because I was never sure, what grit is this? Is it 2000? Is it 2500? No grit. It's designed specifically for this.
So it's an applicator, not so much a...
Yeah, you're not going to get any additional scratches that you're going to have to chase out because there's no grit to it. Right. So that's awesome. Now let's maybe walk through the process. I will bring in another machine at some point. I use that for the flat surfaces. It's perfect for the flat surfaces, but a lot of the other areas, I just apply it with my hand.
Okay.
I like to start with the sides. I'll get the little nooks and crannies first, the sides, and then I'll hit the back of the body. I'll hit the headstock, hit the neck, then I'll flip it over, and then the part that I just can't wait to see it come alive is this quilted maple. So let's keep moving and go from there. So I'm just gonna grab a pad, and like I said, I'm gonna follow my typical process and work through some of these things. All right. I'm not pressing hard, I'm just letting the pad do the work.
Yep.
You know, actually, I want to make sure that we capture this on camera. What is the fancy word for it? It's called chatoyance. But if you can see, like it dances almost. It looks 3D, and it kind of fools your eye a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we're gonna move on to the 3-inch buffer. And just like you've been doing, I mean, you know this, it's not sanding, you're just making sure that this stuff gets massaged. The resin's in the pores, so you just wanna make sure you get the parts that the resin didn't get in the pores. Another question you're gonna have is, how many coats? As many as you want. On this guitar, I'll tell you, like, it's gonna be one coat. We're gonna know better in a little bit as we wipe this off after we give it time to soak in. I don't think we're gonna need more than one. Let's flip it.
It's unbelievable how deep that maple looks.
I'm gonna try to hold it up. Do you see it dancing? What we're gonna do next is let it cure. And when I say cure, all that's really happening, we're just gonna let it soak in. We'll come back in like an hour and just wipe it off. And then we can talk about next steps then. All right, so we waited an hour, and now it's the point, it's like, all right, how do you know you've waited long enough? I'll try to show you on an area like the neck. If you look at the neck, like it looks and feels like dry. Yeah. And if I just wanna take this like pad that we've been using the whole time to show you what it looked like prior to, in case you forgot, versus the way it is now.
Oh yeah.
The shine, you know, that come back out. That just tells me that the oil has done exactly what we wanted it to do, is that it's penetrated into the guitar body or all the wooden parts, and that's a good thing. What I'll do at this point, just to make sure, is I just look over, like if I look over this surface, right, there's some areas that look drier than others, but if I just run my fingers across, I'm like, nah, it's good at this point.
Right.
So we can go on to the hand buff. And I guess the question in your mind is gonna be, all right, what do you mean hand buff? I'm just wiping off any excess oil. When we get a little further in it, I'll show you a little test that I use to make sure that the oil's gone. I'm just gonna flip it over. Once again, I'm gonna leave this for last. Okay. The goal is just get the oil off wherever you see it. I'll even give you one of these because we might as well get 2 sets of hands doing this at the same time. The goal is just get the oil off wherever you see it.
Okay.
You could almost call this a burnishing at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like where you're just using a really soft thing like this little shop towel. One thing to keep in mind, like my hands are still pretty oily from the last process, and I'm seeing my fingerprints. So just make sure you're not using that as a guide. You're like, oh, did I get it off? And next thing it was just your finger that was on there. So yeah, just keep an eye on it, that's all. All right, so I promised you earlier I'd show you a little trick that I use, and the trick is really simple. It's actually just using my thumb. So if we didn't wipe everything off, when I put my finger on there, if you don't see a fingerprint, that means you got all the surface oil off of there.
Okay.
If you did see a fingerprint, that means there's just stuff still hanging out on the surface.
Just keep wiping.
Yeah, and all that is just a matter of doing one of these again.
Okay.
So it's that simple. So
great.
What's it feel like?
It feels incredible. I mean, it feels, this is what my goal is with a neck when I have a guitar is I don't like, you know, we talked earlier about that dipped in glass, super shiny, sticky.
Yeah.
This feels beyond smooth.
All right, so we're at the final step in the process before we hang this up to dry. Let's flip it over, and I'll just show you what I do here at this point. So I like to just hit the fretboard, and what I use for this, it's just fretboard finishing oil. It's from StewMac. They sell this. I've had, like a lot of things in my shop, I've had the same jar forever, and this isn't a tricky thing. I'm literally just rubbing it in there, making sure I get on either side of the frets. All right. Great. We did it. We're at the point now where this is done. Like as far as finishing is concerned, doing an oil finish, now what? I just hang it and let it sit there for 2 to 3 weeks before I take it to the next steps. You need those 2 weeks, that 2 to 3 weeks, to make sure that the tongue oil that's in Walrus Oil is fully cured. But now we're at a good point where we can continue on and hang the sucker. So Case, if you don't mind, I'll give you the honor. Can you go back and hang the guitar? And while you're back there, I want you to grab your guitar because I think it'd be pretty cool for everyone to see what that looks like.
Okay. I'm going to apply those same methods I learned the past 2 days on this guitar. I can't even wait to see what this wood's going to look like. It's not even sanded to finish yet.
What we're going to do is we're going to put the naphtha on there and just get a quick sneak peek of what it could look like. It won't look as good as it will when it's done, but we're kind of cheating,
right?
And see what. So let's cheat.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how you're going to do anything but an oil finish, and if actually, I'm not going to allow you to do anything.
Yeah, you come over and smack me if I do that.
Where are you?
I'm right here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Casey, I'm really looking forward to you finishing this guitar.
Me too.
What do you want to add, bud?
Man, the past 2 days have been great. I learned so much with this process, so I can't wait to complete this guitar. So.
All right, thank you.
Any questions, reach out to this guy
No,
right
ask
here.
him and I'll send it back. Bye.
See ya, take care. Okay, welcome back. So what did you think of that process? Be honest, let me know in the comments. The beauty of that process is that you can apply that to any woodworking project. It doesn't just need to be a guitar. So that being said, on the guitar project, I've had this now for about 2 months. I've been playing it as much as I can. My son has been also playing it. 6-string, dual humbucker. It's got a volume and a tone with a 3-way switch. I have a Schaller Hans bridge on here. I have hip shot locking tuners on here. It was a lot of fun to just design this and know that I could kind of get away with anything because it was my design and my job that I was doing on it. This isn't for a customer, this is mine, and I'm excited for it. I'd like to thank everybody that's supporting me in the guitar building side of my hobbies. I'd like to thank Ty for all of his inspiration for helping me out. I'd like to really thank StewMac. They have a very large variety of luthier tools and guitar repair tools. If it has to do with guitars, StewMac probably has it. So definitely jump on and check them out. SurfPrep as well with their sanding line, their abrasives. Check them out. Walrus Oil with the finish, and Total Boat with the epoxy that we used, the high performance. And lastly, if you like this video and you want to see more content like this, please let me know. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow along as I kind of just try some new stuff. Like, I love woodworking in my shop. I will never stop doing that. We have a bunch of house projects still that we're working on, but guitars is going to be one of my side hobbies that is probably going to be more prominent here because it's got its own spot now in my shop. I'm Casey with C. Reeves Makes, and thanks for watching.